Welcome to the Reece Report. I am Andrew Reece. Today I'm gonna bring you guys a little bit of a beef, bone to pick rant. It's really bothering me about some people. So, the Edmonton Oilers got swept by the Winnipeg Jets last night. They lost in triple overtime on a Kyle Connor goal. Happened right after a turnover by Connor McDavid, who is, and I know this, is the best player in the NHL. He's certainly the best player in the NHL in the regular season. But in the playoffs, he's been anything but the best player in the NHL. He was not good at all in this series. And I understand where people are coming from. But to say that this man needs to be freed from Edmonton because he has no help is ridiculous. They have another guy that's an MVP on the team named Leon Draisaitl. He wasn't much better in this series, although he did get 2 goals. They were both pointless in the first 2 games, including a 1-0 shutout. I realized Connor Hellebuck, the real Connor, outplayed Mike Smith, but Mike Smith has not been a bad playoff goalie. He's been a pretty good playoff goalie. He's just 39 years old, so I get that. There are other reasons Edmonton lost this series, but to act like Connor McDavid is not one of them is ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you why Connor McDavid doesn't deserve any excuses for these losses. This is his 3rd playoff series. He's won 1 playoff series. The last 2 years he's been beaten by Chicago and Winnipeg. And his production significantly goes down in the playoffs. So in his career he's averaged 1.41 points per game, and in the playoffs drops to 1. Winnipeg completely took him out of this series. And people are going to say, well, he had no help. Well, he plays with Leon Draisaitl, and he has Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. They're all centers, and they have Darnell Nurse, who is a stud defenseman. They had Tyson Barrie, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but he led the NHL in defenseman scoring. So it's not like they had this horrific team. They finished 2nd in the division, ahead of the Jets. They were 7-2 against the Jets in the regular season, and Connor McDavid dominated them. He had 22 points in 9 games. So what happened? Why in the playoffs did the Oilers all of a sudden get swept by the Jets? It can't just be about the supporting cast. Connor McDavid is the best player in the league. He's the captain, and he did not show up. I'm looking on the other side of the pond. I'm looking at Nathan MacKinnon, and he shows up every year in the playoffs. So I want people to stop saying that Connor McDavid needs to be freed and it's not his fault and it's all about the supporting cast. I understand that the management team led by Peter Chiarelli screwed this team up. But this is not the worst team imaginable. And I'm going to tell you why it's not the worst team imaginable. I'm going to throw up this graphic. Wife, can you put up this graphic, please? This is the 2008-2009 Pittsburgh Penguins. This is the 4th year of Sidney Crosby's career and the 3rd year for Evgeny Malkin. They were 22 and 21 years old. They had made the Stanley Cup final the year before, and then they won the Cup the following year. Now, I'm going to hear the arguments, oh, they had Marc-Andre Fleury. Fine, they had Marc-Andre Fleury, and Edmonton has Mike Smith. Okay, fine. But look at the rosters. You have Evgeny Malkin and you have Sidney Crosby, both 100-point men. The next best player had 49 points. Now look at that roster that's on your screen. You tell me that's a Stanley Cup winning team. And that's much better than what Edmonton had this year. I mean, look at some of the players there. Look at Evgeny Malkin's line mates. Look who Crosby was playing with. Not a lot of help. Look at the defense. Mark Eaton, Hal Gill, Rob Scuderi. Not a murderer's row of defense. Chris Letang was in his 3rd season. He had not become the defenseman he become. Sergei Gonchar was a very old defenseman at the time. Nobody thought they were going to win the cup, but they did. Connor McDavid needs to be better in the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say. Okay? And the proof of that is what Pittsburgh and Sidney Crosby did in his 4th season in the league. Connor McDavid is in his 6th season in the NHL. Right? And very similarly to Pittsburgh, both him and Leon Draisaitl have won MVPs. Connor is about to win his 2nd, but they have had 0 playoff success. Now, if you want to blame that completely on the management, go right ahead, because everybody else does. But to sit here and say that Connor McDavid deserves no blame at all for getting swept in the first round by a team he dominated in the regular season, that's not right. He has to take some of the blame. So really, that's all I wanted to say. At the end of the day, Connor has to be better. Edmonton is going to have a lot of cap space this year, and we'll see if they can build around him better. But I'm looking at that Pittsburgh Penguin team, and there's not a whole lot of difference between that team and the Edmonton team that you're seeing. I want everyone to go and look at the 2008-2009 Penguins. Look at their scoring leaders. Look at who was on that team, and look at the gap between talent. And tell me it's much different than Edmonton's of this year, or even the year before. Okay? So, I don't want to hear excuses for Connor McDavid. He's not the only reason they lost, but he's part of the reason they lost. It's not like he needs to be freed from Edmonton. And Connor, good on you to come out right away, because all the media was starting and all the social media was starting about you trying to get out of Edmonton. Good on you to come out and say, I'm not leaving Edmonton. I want to be here to see this through. At least you're not like Jack Eichel trying to cry your way out of the team. Okay? So, Edmonton, you got swept. You shouldn't have got swept. You didn't play well. But Connor McDavid was one of the reasons. Look at the play in OT. He made a lazy play with the puck, just threw it nowhere to no one in the overtime, and Kyle Connor comes down and scores. He looked tentative. He doesn't look comfortable with the puck on the boards. He sometimes doesn't know what to do with the puck in tight situations. Playoff hockey is not agreed with him. He's a guy who likes to use his speed, and when the game becomes tighter and the game is less open, Connor is not as good a player right now in the playoffs. He's not saying it'd never get better. He might get better. He's in his 6th season, but in the playoffs so far, teams have found a way to shut him down, and he's got to be better, especially when he has the puck making decisions in the playoffs. There's not as many power plays, there's not as much open ice, and it's much more difficult to get it done in the playoffs. It's what the Leafs have gone through. I mean, all teams go through it, right? Pittsburgh had success really early in their history with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, and it's your turn. It's time for you guys to step up, both McDavid and Draisaitl, because now when they do get the help with all the cap space this year, there's going to be no excuses, even though I don't think there should be any now. So that's my rant for today, guys, and I'd love to hear your feedback. If you disagree with me, if you agree with me, say whatever you want. I'm posting this. Give me all your comments, feedback, subscribe, share, and kill me if you want to. But this is what I think. This is how I feel. Shout out to the Pittsburgh Express in the background there. That's for you, Gil. Shout out to The Point. I'd like to thank Brian for making this graphic for me to illustrate my point to you all. And you can catch him at To The Point on his page. Catch me on the Reece Report. This is my first rant, and there are going to be plenty more to come, believe me. This is not the last one, because my team is about to be playing tomorrow, and there will be a rant if they lose that series. So trust me, my team's not off the hook. So that's all for this one, boys. I'm Andrew Reece, and I'll see you on the next Reece Report.